and welcome to the Times of India. You're watching Global Pulse with me, Neha Khanna. Our big focus on the show tonight. After months of tense negotiations and claims and counterclaims, if you thought that we would soon see India and the United States finally seal their long-awaited trade deal, well, you're in for a surprise. Donald Trump has decided to begin the year on quite a belligerent note. And we're not even talking about the US attack on Venezuela. The US president has once again issued a tariff threat to India. He now says Washington will raise tariffs on New Delhi if the latter continues importing Russian oil. Trump has also claimed that Prime Minister Narendra Modi knew he was not happy and India wanted to make him happy. While addressing reporters aboard Air Force One, Trump said, "We could raise tariffs on India if they don't help on the Russian oil issue." He then went on to claim that India has substantially reduced its oil purchases from Russia. Trump stated, "They wanted to make me happy, basically. Prime Minister Modi is a very good man. He's a good guy. He knew I was not happy. It was important to make me happy. They do trade and we can raise tariffs on them very quickly."
They wanted to make me happy, basically. He wanted to. Modi's a very good thing.
Yes.
He's a good guy. He knew I was not happy, and it was important to make me happy. They do trade. And we could raise tariffs on them very quickly, and it would be
People were
very
great.
bad.
All of that to say, you told me you weren't very thrilled.
And I'll tell you something, the Russian economy is lousy. But what's really lousy is the Venezuelan economy. The Venezuelan economy is, I think, the worst economy I've ever seen. If you look at inflation, it's...
Trump's latest warning comes amid growing scrutiny in Washington over New Delhi's energy trade with Russia. India has always defended its oil purchases, terming it essential for domestic energy security. The threat comes just weeks after Trump and Prime Minister Modi held a telephonic conversation during which both leaders stressed the importance of maintaining momentum in bilateral trade ties despite ongoing tensions on account of tariffs. The phone call coincided with the launch of a fresh round of negotiations between Indian and US officials aimed at resolving the trade impasse. Talks between the two sides began several months ago, but faced disruptions after Trump slapped a staggering 50% tariffs on Indian imports, the highest rate of tariffs for any US trading partner. 25% of these tariffs are punishment for India's purchases of Russian oil. Since the Russia-Ukraine war began in February 2022, Moscow has come under increasing sanctions from Western powers led by the US. And since 2025, India too has borne the brunt of those sanctions, with the US imposing secondary tariffs to deter New Delhi from buying Russian oil. The United States, under the Trump administration, has repeatedly accused India of funding the Kremlin's war machine. And now comes the latest threat by Washington to further raise the tariffs on India. And the contradictions are mind-boggling. Trump has continued to heap praise on Prime Minister Modi, referring to him as a great leader and friend, while constantly tightening the screws on India over the issue of Russian oil. Just recently, the US Embassy in India quoted Trump's praise for Prime Minister Modi. In a social media post, Trump had described India as an amazing country and said America has found a great friend in Modi. Trump stated, "India is home to one of the world's oldest civilizations. It's an amazing country and an important strategic partner for America in the Indo-Pacific region. We have a great friend in Prime Minister Modi," he had said. And the story of the latest threat by Trump gets curiouser. US Senator Lindsey Graham has claimed that India's ambassador to the United States, Vinay Mohan Kwatra, sought tariff relief from Washington after highlighting that New Delhi had reduced its purchases of Russian oil. Speaking to reporters alongside Trump, Graham claimed During a meeting at the Indian ambassador's residence last month, the focus was entirely on India cutting back its Russian oil imports. According to Graham, Ambassador Kawatra requested that he convey this message to President Trump and ask for relief from the 25% punitive tariff imposed on Indian goods. Graham said, and I quote, "I was at the Indian ambassador's house a month ago, and all he wanted to talk about was how India is buying less Russian oil. And he asked me to tell the president to relieve the 25% tariff. I believe what President Trump did by tariffing India is the chief reason that India is buying substantially less Russian oil."
So this bill would allow...
And India also is pulling.
Yes, sir. So he put a 25% tariff on India for buying Russian oil. I was at the Indian ambassador's house about a month ago, and all he wanted to talk about is how they're buying less Russian oil. Would you tell the president to relieve the tariff? This stuff works. So I'm hoping we'll bring the bill up, and it's from 0 to 500. He picks the number. Nobody else does. But if you're buying cheap Russian oil, keeping Putin's war machine going, we're trying to give the president the ability to make that a hard choice by tariffs. I really do believe that what he did with India is the chief reason India is now buying substantially less Russian oil. So I hope we pass this bill soon.
The principal opposition party in India, the International Congress, has sharply reacted to the statement made by the US Senator. In a social media post, the Congress said, and I quote, "This statement makes it clear that to please Donald Trump, Narendra Modi has stopped buying oil from our long-standing friend Russia. Why is Modi harming the country just to maintain his own PR and keep Trump happy?" Of course, the US hypocrisy on this issue is staggering. In the past, India has described the tariffs as unfair, unjustified, and unreasonable, arguing that energy imports are dictated by market forces and national energy security considerations for a country of 1.4 billion people. Indian officials also pointed out the double standards in singling out India when other major economies, including China and the European Union, continue to import Russian energy without facing any penalties. Not only that, the volume of trade between Russia and the United States itself has grown by at least 20% since Trump was re-elected to the White House a year ago. The 50% tariffs imposed by the US on India have had real economic consequences. Indian exporters, especially in sectors like textiles, jewelry, chemicals, and automotive parts, now face significant cost disadvantages in the US market. Job losses and slowing growth in export-dependent regions have been widely discussed by analysts. Politically, the tariff war has hugely strained what had been a steadily deepening strategic partnership. For years, India and the United States worked to build ties centered around mutual interests, countering China's influence, defense cooperation, and technology and energy collaboration. But the imposition of punitive duties, the highest trade levies any major economy has placed on Indian exports, has reset expectations and introduced friction into diplomatic forums. The issue of oil has been catapulted into the forefront of global geopolitics following US military action against Venezuela, a country that holds the world's largest proven oil reserves at over 303 billion barrels. That represents roughly 17% of the total global oil supply, according to OPEC data. Despite its vast reserves, Venezuela's oil production has fallen sharply to around 1 million barrels a day due to US sanctions and underinvestment. However, the question facing India is this: will Trump carry out his threat and further raise the tariffs on India, which is already the most tariffed country in the world? Will India bite the bullet and reduce its Russian oil purchases significantly to avert fresh tariffs? What does the latest threat by Trump mean for India-US trade talks? Does it indicate that the elusive trade deal is far from done and the differences between the two sides remain irreconcilable? What will fresh tariffs mean for India's energy security, its economy, and for India-US relations, which experts say are already at a 3-decade low? And will fresh tariff threats push New Delhi to work on a broader recalibration of its global alignments?